Can anybody see and hear me? And if you can, could you please leave a message? I can see messages, but I'm not sure if I'm active because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to wait to see, is anybody here who can tell me if I am live and you can see me and hear me? Can somebody give me a thumbs up or wave at me? I have a few people waving, but I don't know if that's from earlier. Okay, I got a yes. Marina said yes, so I'm going to assume I'm live. I am sorry about the delay. I promise I'm going to work on that. In fact, speaking of that, today the event is at 2 o'clock, but in the future I'm going to make it a little earlier.
Hello. Can you hear me before?
Yes, thank you.
There's that. I'll be back.
Back up. Do that, please. Alright, this is really a live event, and you can tell I'm in the car, and I will tell you what I'm doing. Our church has a Wednesday night service, and through my neighborhood I connected with somebody who used to work for a food bank, but due to COVID, somehow or other, the food bank is not active. So instead they found other partners in the community that they can give the food to, who will then pass it out. So on Wednesdays, because we have church on Wednesdays, I get food from this gentleman that lives in our neighborhood, and that's why I'm going to have to reschedule this at a different time going forward, because I forgot about that I do this on Wednesday afternoon. So I'm here online, so if you see somebody walk up to the window, I'm just waiting for them to load up the back of my van. Alright, Marina, I will keep that question in mind. Talk about productivity. Thank you for bringing up a question. I will get to that. I have a little list of things I'm going to write down. So today this event is open to everybody and the video will stay visible to everybody. But I just started a new thing on my channel, and that's memberships. And the memberships are basically a way for me to make some revenue while providing content that I would not normally be providing or even able to provide. And one of those things are these live Q&As. And I think I'm doing it the correct way. I think this is how it works. I can see your comments and I can respond to them in real time. But in the future, this will only be visible to members. Both during the live event as well as afterwards, the members will be able to see it, but it will not be open to people that are not signed up and joined as a member. And the reason for that is that I will be talking about things in here that I wouldn't just put out publicly to the general public, where they can just find it easily by, I don't know, just going on my channel or Googling our name. There's a little bit of a wall here because it's subscriber content only. I feel more comfortable sharing private materials that I might not be talking about. So I'll get to that in just a minute here. So to become a member, you basically, one moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So to become a member, you basically click on the join button that should be below every video, right next to the subscribe button. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please click the subscribe button. And if you have subscribed, you can then also join. And there's 2 levels of membership, and the sponsor level membership is the one where you're able to tune into these videos. And I hope that my regular viewers understand why I haven't been putting out personal content like that, just because our family is already a target, and my kids, my older kids, my teenagers are not comfortable with that information just being open and public to anybody, but they are okay if it's kind of in a protected subscriber content only. You can see this little hand here. This is Oliver. Oliver's having a little bit of a lunch here, so he's going to say hi when he's done. So I will get to your questions, but I just wanted to mention about the channel membership. I also wanted to mention, if you haven't gotten the promos yet, there were 2 promos, one for the cookbook and one for the homeschool book. Those are still active. I still have about 10 cookbooks left, and I actually ordered more author copies for the homeschool book. And isn't he so precious? Isn't he so precious? So I have about 30 more homeschool books that I can mailed to you if you want to do those promos. And if you're not sure what those 2 promos are about, my 2 previous videos before this one talk about that. Basically, if you make any donation for $15 or more to the link in the comments, you can get the cookbook, and $20 or more you can get the homeschool book. So for both of them, that's about half price. That includes the shipping. Please put in the comments when you make the donation which book you would like. And if you would just like to support this channel by just making a straight up donation without wanting a cookbook, of course that's possible also. He's eating my fingers here. So those donations are not a donation to our church. This is not tax deductible. I just want to make that very clear so there's no confusion there. This is truly just going to our family fun fund. It's not even a need. So if you have needs, if you know people who have needs, please do make a trip to Germany possible. We haven't been as a family since 2008, which is when I was pregnant with Rebecca, a very long time ago. So I have booked the tickets now. I have booked the accommodations. For some of the time we can stay for free. For some of the time we need Airbnbs. And if you think about, we're going over there with at least 10, maybe 11 or even 12 people. My older boys can't all go. My husband can't go. So we're going to have at least 10, but maybe even 12 people. So we can't really stay with anybody. I mean, imagine having 12 people coming to your house all at once to stay for a week. And yeah, we kind of need our own landing pad. But all that's booked, and now I'm chipping away at the rental van, which is really expensive. I mean, rental vans here are expensive. They're more expensive over there. I have to pay for insurance, which I don't normally do because I called Geico and they do not cover us in Europe. So just little things like that. And then of course the admissions, so we can see all the castles and do all the things. You were so sweet. So that's where any membership fees and stuff from this channel are going. That's what you're supporting. Really not a necessity, but okay, Cass, I see your question and I will get back to that. So not really a necessity, but if you've been in the ministry, or rather your husband's in the ministry, you might understand that, you know, taking time away and taking a step back is actually a necessity to prevent burnout. And we've been in the ministry now for almost 17 years, and it's a wonderful blessing. I would not want to trade it for anything. But there are also very unique challenges. And the closest thing I can compare it to is like parenting. It's the biggest blessing. There's nothing like having children, but it's also the hardest thing. And it's a lot like that with spiritual children in the ministry. So I think that's a way that is understandable for others, that taking time away to refill your own cup, it's not really a need, but in a way it really is. Hello, Our House. Yes, Germany, here we come. So special shout out to Our House. That's my good friend Karen. If you are not subscribed to her channel, hop on over and subscribe. She has some great homeschool content. And I want to be like Karen when I grow up. She is my biggest supporter. If I have a question about anything, I text her and she responds, and she's a super big helper. So I wanted to mention the promos are still on. I mentioned about the membership. And I'm going to answer the questions that have been posed so far. And then I'm going to talk about what Ollie and I did last week. We did some fun things last week, just to give you a glimpse of future content, of what you can expect to see here that I would not normally share publicly. So today is that exception. I'm keeping an eye on the time. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I probably am, just because I'm nervous and I'm kind of feel like I'm talking to myself here. But if you have any feedback, talk slower, go faster, say less, say more, make the video shorter, make the video longer, just put it in the comments and I will keep that in mind. So going forward, starting next week, I'm not quite sure, but I think we're going to move it to about 10 or 11 a.m. my time, but I will announce it. I'm going to back up now to questions. So if you want to ask a question, you can put that in the comments. The first question was productivity. How do I get so much done? I have two answers for that. One you're not gonna like, and one that's more doable. The number one is I don't sleep a lot. I don't want to say I don't sleep enough, because I do sleep enough. But thankfully, I am somebody who does not need a lot of sleep. If I were to go to bed and sleep as long as I want, I would wake up after 6.5 hours. And you can set your clock by that. For me, a full night's sleep is 6.5 hours. And 6.5 hours a night versus 8 hours a night makes a big difference. And I notice this because when I'm pregnant, I need 8 hours a night, and a lot of things don't get done. So that 1.5 hours makes a big difference for me. So if you're somebody who needs 8 or maybe even 10 hours of sleep, I think that might be where the difference comes from. I'm able to be more productive just because I don't sleep a full 8 hours every night. Now, I don't know if that's genetic or what that has to do with. I will say I don't drink coffee. I drink a half cup of coffee in church on Sunday mornings, sometimes Sunday night or Wednesday night, just because otherwise the minute I sit down, I pass out. I'm actually like a narcoleptic. Like, if I start yawning in the car, I have to pull over because I just turn off like a light. So because I sleep so little, when I sleep, I just switch off and I'm just completely shut down. So I don't drink coffee, and I think that might have to do with why overall I end up having more energy, because coffee doesn't actually give you energy. It's kind of like just giving you like a credit card energy, and then later you end up paying for it, and that takes your energy away. So that's one thing. I don't need a lot of sleep, thankfully. And of course, eating healthy helps with that too, to have good energy. And then the other reason for productivity is just try to fill little pockets of time. It all adds up, and just by making best use of every little minute, you can really maximize your productivity. I hope that answered the question. If not, if you leave me a comment, I'll try to elaborate more. Breastfeeding without a cover while still being modest. I have a video on breastfeeding, and if you pull that up, I explain a lot of that in there. It depends on what you mean by being modest. If you mean that a sliver of skin is never showing, that's not my definition of it. When I breastfeed, I sometimes show skin, and I think that's normal, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. One moment, this is alive, and now my kid needs help. (95610). This is really live. So there's a good video on that, and if you have any more questions, that answers it, and you can leave a comment either on this video or on that if you still have questions. But in general, I pull out the breast, I put the baby on, and if that offends people, I'm sorry, the baby's more important. I'm gonna go down here through the comments. Thank you for those who became a member just while we're talking here. Adult dating advice. What should a lady watch out for? That's a really good question, and I'm hoping I'm giving an intelligent answer. I think one thing you should watch out for is how do they treat their mom? How do they treat other people in general, especially people that they might perceive beneath them or below them in status. For example, wait staff at a restaurant, or children, or women in particular. Anytime you see somebody who is arrogant or puts themselves first, or think that they're more important than others, or that they're more valid than others, that's a really bad sign. Because sooner or later, especially if you're a lady, your husband might think that, just in biblical order, the wife answers to the husband, not the other way around. And that doesn't mean that she's worth less or that she's less valuable. It's simply just an authority structure. But it's easy for somebody that's full of themselves and selfish like that to think that answering to a higher authority means that they're less valuable than themselves. And you never want that in a mate. Of course, in a husband, you want somebody who loves you more than that they put their interests behind your own interests. That's truly the Christian way to succeed at anything, is others before self. So you want to look for that. I think that's a really good sign. How do they treat others, especially people that they perceive beneath them? I hope that helps. And if anybody has good advice on that, please leave it in the comments. Now, of course, you want to keep in mind, especially when you're dealing with age, young adult males, the brain leaves the body around like age 15, and I think it returns around like age 25. So you want to keep that in mind and give them some grace. That just because somebody is selfish when they're 20, hopefully that's not who they are for life. But it's just something to keep in mind. What brand of palm oil do I recommend for deep frying? So the one I use, I'm not saying it's the only one, I'm telling you this is the one I use and I really like. I order on Azure Standard, and if you put in palm oil, there's 2 results that come up. One comes in a little tub and is like a name brand. I think it's by Spectrum. That's not the one I use. I use the one that's the Azure brand. It comes in bulk. The box is 30 or 40 pounds, and you can also buy it in a 1-pound tub. And that's the one I use and have been using for several years, and I'm really happy with it. I also use that in place of shortening for frosting. I use that in making biscuits with shortening, things like that. So I hope that works. Deep frying. How old is my oldest child? I'm glad you asked. He just turned 21, and I think that was a milestone for me as well. He's doing really well. He's a great son. I'm very proud of him. His name is Solomon. He works full time. He does not live at home. And as a matter of fact, he is in the process of buying a house, and I'm very proud of him for many reasons. But he's doing really well, and I'm very happy with him. He's 21. He just turned 21, and that was a big day for me as well because he made me a mother. Deidre, I hope I'm saying your name right. Thank you so much for the orange suitcase with travel stickers. Thank you so much. And thank you for those that are signing up as members while I'm doing this. I'm really self-conscious about this. Just because I wonder who wants this content. But I think back to when I had fewer kids, and I try to provide the content that I would have liked to have myself. Let's scoot down here through the questions. If there are no more questions, I'll tell you about... Okay, living with hens. That's a good username. I like that YouTube handle. You received the cookbook. I'm so excited to try out the recipes. I'm really glad to hear that. And then it says here, no moderators on your channel. You may need to have moderators. So I do have moderators for this chat, and also comments that are potentially offensive are automatically pulled by YouTube, and I have that set to strict. So if anything, I think it might weed out people leaving legitimate comments. Do I have tips for a newlywed Christian wife who didn't have a proper mother figure? So I think my number one tip would be, if you do have a mom and she's not a proper mother figure, just for the sake of your own mental health, figure out if it would be better to try to cultivate a relationship with her, even if it's just one of respect as her daughter, or if maybe you can improve on that relationship, or if it would be better not to, if there's boundary issues. I would say you have to figure that out, but do find a substitute mother figure if your own mother cannot fill that role, whether that's an older lady at your church or somebody who's ahead of you in the mothering journey. It could be an aunt. I have several aunts that I'm very close with. Pardon me, I'm going to remove my glasses. I only wear them for driving, so I'm sitting here. So I would say try to find a substitute figure. Don't go to them and say, hey, I'm looking to you as my mother figure. That might kind of freak them out. But just take mental notes. I remember doing this when I was a new mom and a young wife. I would look at other moms who were farther down, and I would be like, okay, so when my child is 1 year old, I can expect this. Because once you're in that situation, it's harder to see it for what it is. So it's best to decide ahead of time, okay, in this and that situation, this would be an appropriate response, or this would be what to expect of my child at certain ages. So I would say find somebody to fill that role. I'm going to answer this last question. Okay, 2 questions. Michelle Dickin, yes, I still recommend those supplements. I'm very, very happy with them. The first week of the month, they always have specials where you can get them for 20% off. So watch for those specials. Do I use the Robinson curriculum? No, I do not. I have never used it. I'm sure it's wonderful. And again, our house, or my friend Karen, she does everything Robinson curriculum. She's really, really good with that. So if you have questions about that, she's your gal. Personally, the Abeka is what I use for grades K4 through about 3rd grade. The video lessons and the phonics lessons. I did not used to do the video lessons. Just in recent years I've gotten to do that because I have so many kids. It just is overwhelming otherwise. And what you looking for? You're looking for food. And then in the higher grades we've been doing ACE or Abeka, whichever the kids prefer. So some of mine do Abeka, some of them do ACE in the higher grades. And I've been really happy with those curricula. I will say that all curriculum has its problems. There's nothing out there that's perfect. Not even my own curriculum book that I wrote. And the way that you would use my Read Yourself in Education is that basically you would use that as a backbone for the subjects that you're covering, except math and English, everybody does on their own level. And you could do that through Abeka, you could do that through ACE, you can really do that through any curriculum where every student is on math and English on their own grade level, but then they, as a common topic, go through a unit study book like Read Yourself in Education, or there are many others out there, and I recommend some too in the Read Yourself in Education. What am I reading aloud to my kids now? I have gone back to reading the Book of Virtues, which was published by, his last name is Bennett. But I've read that here on the channel before. You can find that, or just book in the Book of Virtues on Amazon. And there's a companion book that, I think it's William Bennett, and there's a companion book about the moral compass. And those are wonderful because they're short. You can read a poem, you can read a short story, and we're doing that. When we're reading actual chapter books, I've been doing a lot of library apps where we can listen for free or even through Audible. And that would be a video probably in itself. So whenever there's a topic here that I can't answer, I'm going to go back through the comments later and I will jot down ideas for future videos that I will go into more, like book recommendations or curriculum. So I see your question, Midst of Blessing Mama, about tips and tricks for using Abeka Video School with a lot of kids. I will get onto that. And for those local to Arizona, I don't know if you've been following the legislation, and here in Arizona we just had a new law pass, and basically it's called the ESA program, the Endowment Scholarship Account. And what it means in a nutshell is that educational spending by the government is now, instead of going to the schools, going to the students. And that includes students no matter how they're schooled, including homeschool students. So starting this school year, the state of Arizona, actually, if you go through the application, and it's not intrusive at all, we do not have to do testing or anything. We simply sign the contract for a year that we will educate our children and that we'll use these funds for education, and they will give a debit card, a Master debit card, a MasterCard debit card for each student, with a total of about $7,000 to $8,000 per year that can only be spent on certain educational items. And that is a huge relief to homeschool families in Arizona. I hope other states are going to follow suit. This is a brand new legislation that does not exist anywhere in any other state, and it's been a huge victory for homeschooling. So I am going to stop on the questions for now. I will look at them later and I will try to answer them in the comments. I just wanted to talk about something that we did last week, real briefly, to give you an idea of what to expect in these videos later. Although I think the Q&A is probably the most popular feature. But anyway, I did not want to book the tickets to Germany without doing a test flight, if that makes sense. The reason for that is that I've flown my entire life and never had issues. But in 2019, I was pregnant with Chloe at the time. No, I'm sorry, I was pregnant with Eva at the time. I flew to Germany with Solomon, and Peter was also along. And about halfway across the Atlantic, I had a major anxiety attack triggered by claustrophobia. And not the kind of claustrophobia because I felt too cramped, because it's a big airplane. I wasn't cramped, but because I couldn't get off the airplane. And for the rest of that pregnancy, I would get claustrophobia anytime I was in an enclosed building where I could not immediately get out. I mean, I could get claustrophobic literally in Costco, because Costco doesn't have windows and you just can't get out. Pardon me. Now, after I was done being pregnant with her, I've flown since then to Sacramento, and that went well, but that's a short flight. That's only about an hour and a half. I didn't want to commit to buying these expensive tickets to Germany that are non-refundable, because I'm buying the cheapest rate, without making sure that I could actually fly. So there was a retreat, not really a retreat, more like a what do you call it? I guess like a retreat for pastors' wives in upstate New York last week. And it was for pastors' wives and just ladies in general. I guess you would call it like a ladies' conference. That's what it was, a ladies' conference. For pastors' wives. And a fellow pastor's wife in New York that I've been friends with for years told me about this. And I thought, I should go out there to see how I do on a longer flight, because this involves like a 5-hour flight to the East Coast. And then, backtracking to upstate New York. So I went with Rebecca, and it was Rebecca's birthday trip. Rebecca has a birthday this month in October. She's turning 14. So I thought if I bring her with me, we'll have some time together, and we can leave a few days early, go to Niagara Falls, explore upstate New York. And that's what we did. You are so sweet. You are just the best. And I wanted to see, before I booked the tickets, I was waiting to book the tickets to see how I did on a long flight, a 5-hour flight. And it went well. So when I got there and it had gone well, we booked the tickets. So that's where we went. The picture that you see on the thumbnail is Ollie and I at Niagara Falls. There are other pictures from that trip that I'm going to share in the community tab. So if you go to my channel, there are different tabs. There's a tab where my videos are, and there's the home tab, but there's another tab that's called community. And on the community tab, I can share content kind of like on my Facebook page. So on there, I will share, visible to members only, some of the pictures from that trip. But it was wonderful, because one of the things that happened on that trip, and I felt like this was, I like to call this a birthday gift from God. When something good happens on my birthday, I always call it a birthday gift from God. And it wasn't my birthday. Achoo! Achoo! Achoo, choo, choo! It wasn't my birthday, but it was Solomon's birthday that day. So it was my birthday as a mom. And this was when we were flying out on Wednesday. I got on the plane, and we kind of got stopped in front of the flight attendants at the door, because everybody was blocking the aisles, putting their suitcases away. And I leaned into her and I said, I just wanted to let you know I have severe flight claustrophobia, and we were only able to get middle and window seats near the front, not aisle seats. And if I get claustrophobic, is it okay if I come stand up here near the galley with the baby, just so I don't have an anxiety attack from being claustrophobic? And she said, oh, that's totally fine, don't worry about it. So Becca and I went and we took our seats, and we were in row 9, so we weren't far back. I went with going nearer the front of the airplane over getting an aisle seat, because the further to the front I am, the better I do. Well, we just got settled, and the flight attendant came back to us, and she said, 2 gentlemen in first class overheard when you were talking to me, and they want to trade their aisle seats with you for your middle and window seat. And I said, I can't accept that. That's too nice. And she said, sure you can. So we did. I mean, I asked them, were they sure? 1 second. Do you want to go see Becca? Becca, can you take him? Go see Becca. There you go. Good night. So she said, sure you can. So we did move up. And for the first time in my life, probably the last, I mean, hopefully not the last if this happens again, but we flew first class. We had the 2 aisle seats in the first row on the airplane. And it was a long flight. It was almost 5 hours. So we got a snack. We got a full hot meal. We got like a cheese and dessert platters. I mean, it was really good. It was American Airlines. We were really happy with that. And it definitely didn't get claustrophobic on that. But even on the way back, we went from a small airport into Philadelphia. And that was a tiny airplane. It was an Embraer, which has like, I don't know, 30 seats, 40 seats. It has an aisle, and basically 1 seat on one side of the aisle and 2 seats on the other side of the aisle. And it's barely standing height for me, and I'm not that tall. I think it's like 6 feet tall, very small. We got stuck in that plane on the tarmac for an hour and a half before we even took off, and I was okay. It took a little getting used to, but I was able to stay on top of my anxiety and thoughts. And there's a shout out to another channel I want to give, and I'm not saying that everything you might find on this channel is appropriate. I've not seen every video, but from what I can tell, it's a family friendly channel. It is by a United pilot. It's called My Layover Life, and I found this channel because he does have one video about flight anxiety, and I watched that, and that was helpful. But I then also went on to watch other of his videos, and the way he talks about adventures that he has on his layovers and how fun and pleasant it is to see these other places, it really helped me realize I have to get past this. I need to overcome this problem so that I can fly and do things with my children. And basically, anxiety is kind of like an allergy, where the root of the anxiety is a good thing. It's a natural defense. It's something that is a built-in mechanism to protect you, but basically gone too far. Just like allergies is like the body's immune system protecting you, but basically going overboard and triggering something that should not be triggered. So in that case, it's comparable to allergies. I hope that makes sense. But I was able to handle that flight and just think to myself, you know, it's okay. I can be flexible. I can get over this. And I was able to keep the upper hand and not want to rip open the emergency exit doors at 30,000 feet. Not that that's even possible, but, you know, I didn't want to end up in handcuffs on the plane. So I did those flights and everything went well, and that's when I booked the Germany tickets, because I felt confident that I have it under control enough to be able to fly. And it was very, very nice. Harlow, yes, those gentlemen, that was a huge blessing. They were traveling for business, and it was a group of them, and they said, we do this all the time. You probably never do this. And I think they did it because Ollie was so cute, because when I came on the plane, they were all oohing and ahhing about him. So I have God and those gentlemen and Ollie to thank, but that was a wonderful experience. And then the gentleman that I ended up sitting next to, his name was Joe. He was an elderly gentleman from Maine, and he had recently lost his wife and was, I don't want to say he was struggling with it, but he was clearly coming to terms with that. It was sudden and unexpected. So I got a chance to talk to him and minister to him and pray with him and be an encouragement to him, but he was also an encouragement to me. It was a good conversation. I felt like it was one of those God appointments that we have sometimes. And if you've ever had that, you know what I mean. So anyway, that was our trip. I will be sharing some pictures from that trip in the community tab if you want to check that out. And yep, that puts us at 35 minutes. I will be answering the questions that didn't get answered here. I don't know if these comments show up in the stream, so maybe I should try to answer them right now. Let me see what I can still see here. I answered that. When do I introduce solid foods? That's going to be my last question. And my kids all have voracious appetites. And maybe there's a genetic component, because in Germany in general, solids are introduced early. I mean, sometimes as early as 6 weeks. I don't do that. I introduce them sometimes between 4 and 6 months typically. And I've been very happy with that. I've heard it said, food before 1 is just for fun. And I guess that's great for people that have that kind of milk supply and where their kids are happy at the breast. That's never been me. And my kids are all very healthy and grow well. And I think that some of that is genetic. But to answer your question, I start between 4 and 6 months. And that was the last question for today. Harlow, I did not take a picture in first class. I can't believe I didn't. I should have. Oh, well. Next time. I guess there might be a next time. I don't know. I called my mother-in-law. She's a retired flight attendant. I think she was one for like 16 years. And I called her and I told her what had happened. And she said, I've never seen that happen. She said, sometimes people will give up their seat for a service member in uniform. And they will say, you can have my first class seat. And they sit and coach in the back. But she said she'd never seen that for a private person. So I told her I guess I must have looked like I was in the Lord's army to get bumped up. But that was very nice. That was a gift from God, ultimately. Anyway, thank you again for everybody who joined. Listen to me droning on. I hope that something in here is helpful or encouraging or blessing to you. I will continue to share the same content on the channel itself that I've always shared. Even without the membership, you're not losing anything. For those of you who are able to join the membership, I will start providing additional perks, one of them being this weekly 30 to 60 minutes max live Q&A. And if you have any questions, you can also just leave them on videos and then I'll answer them in the video. Anyway, thank you so much for joining. And any questions I didn't get to, I'm going to try to answer them if these come up in the comments. Thank you. Bye. Now I have to figure out how to stop this.